Okay, this is going to show you how to do multicam setups, how to organize Final Cut, how we organize for Final Cut, and hopefully this gives you a starting point. A basic rundown on how Final Cut organizes things are there are things called libraries, there are things called events, and there are things called projects. A library is just basically a large container of everything you would want to deal with in a certain time. An event is a specific event within that library, and then the project is that specific item in the event in the library. So how we organize it is by date, and we just title it based on the date that we started a new library. And we put the libraries on external drives, so we're always working off of external drives. So for this case, I've got a library called August 2020. Obviously, that's when I started that library. And within that, you can see we organize it by class. Every class that I would work on for this time period, August 2020 till the drive becomes full, is contained within there. And then within that would be the specific projects for that course. Okay, and we obviously name those by our naming convention, which is year, date, person that recorded it, course they recorded it for, and what the actual video was about. So this one would be lecture 4A, for instance. Okay, so I've created a test library for this case, and basically all you would do is just go File, New, Library, and you would tell it where you want the library to be stored. I'm storing this one on my desktop just because I can easily delete it. I'm not going to need this one, but you could store it on your external drives like we do, or on your desktop, wherever makes sense for you. And then once you've created it, I'm going to hit cancel. But once you've created it, then you need to modify the storage locations, and this is a big thing to remember. Just because you import something into Final Cut does not necessarily mean that Final Cut will remember where that was placed. In fact, actually, that's a bad way to describe it. It does remember where that media was, and it doesn't necessarily move it into your storage location. So our storage location is on an external drive. I want that media, the video files, the pictures, the images, the slides, all of that, I want all of that in that same location, so that if I ever go back to that project, I don't have to go searching for the media for that project. So what you want to do is go over here to Modify Settings and change the media, the cache, and the backups location. The media is the most important. You want that to be exactly where your project was originally placed. So just click the down arrow there and choose where you want the media to exist. And I've created a test project folder on the desktop. You could create it on your external drive, and then just hit choose. And same with cache. The cache is where it's storing like the changes you've made as it's rendering those, and then the backup is for where obviously it's going to make the backup of the database. And I have a separate location for my backups. I just have an external drive called Final Cut Backups. They're not very large at all, so you can choose a different location for that. It does not necessarily have to be in the same folder that you are working in. Okay, and then once you've done that, you just click OK. And now I'm going to make a new event called Marketing 3713. This is the course I'm working in. I'm going to put it in the test library folder, and I'm going to click OK. Now I can import media into it, right? Here are my courses, just the raw files. This is a camera file, camera 2. I hate how it does that. Let me expand this. Okay, here's camera 2, here's Sumo 2. These are two files that went together, right? We recorded the camera file and we were recording the Sumo file. Same with camera 1 and Sumo 1. I'm going to do camera 2 and Sumo 2 because those are smaller files, so it'll be easier to work with for this example. So I'm just going to drag those into this folder. Okay, now that we've imported our two media files, our Sumo recording and our camera recording, we want to do a multicam shot. And what I do is real simple. I'm just going to select both files. I'm going to right click on them or command click on them and go to new multicam clip. And what I normally do is just call it the date of the multicam. I just call it December 10 multicam. That's all it is. It's leave it check for use audio for synchronization. That's where that clapping is going to come into play in front of the camera in those microphones. Is it's going to key off of those claps. So it gives it a real clear starting point. You're doing it at the beginning of the recording, so Final Cut doesn't have to search through the entire recording to find those similar audio levels to key off of. So I'm just going to click OK, and it syncs up very fast if it's keying off of that clap. And you can see that clap on this level right here. Oh, yeah, there it was. I just saw it right there. Yeah. Okay. So then the next thing I want to do is I want to make a project. So I'm going to do Command N for a new project. And this is Jesse's About Me. So I'm just going to, I would call it normally 2020, December 10. This is Jesse Martin for Marketing 3713. And this is About Me. Okay, so now we have our multicam file. Let's drag it into the project because we have nothing in the project. So I'm just going to throw that there. You'll notice that it starts off with the camera file. It doesn't say that, but I can check that by going to Active Video Angle, and I just right click on the file and I can choose the camera or I can choose the Sumo. We normally have the bottom file, the Sumo, so that basically the computer recording is behind the camera recording. So I'm just going to choose Sumo here, and I can choose this at any point in creating the project, but we'll just do it right now. Now here's what we do. We drag the multicam on top of the multicam again. So now we've got the camera file on top, right? Active Video Angle, camera. And we've got the Sumo file, the computer file, on the bottom, Active Video Angle, Sumo. We won't need the audio, even though it's using the same audio. It's the Active Video Angle is always the primary camera file, the primary media file when you do a multicam shot. But you can always change that as well. We won't need it, obviously, because we've already got the audio here. We don't need it in stereo. You'll notice, though, that we're only seeing the camera file. We're not seeing the computer file, so we would just key this out. So I just go over here to keying and pull in the keyer effect. Oh, I did a bad thing right there. Okay. I'm going to choose a spot where Jesse is on camera, and then I'm going to drag it on. And there we go. Okay, so now you can see we've got the camera file and the computer file. And let's just start here. What I would do is resize the computer file, the Sumo file, and we'll move it over here. And we're going to move Jesse maybe a little over here, and maybe move his file back over here. Now, you can see the green paper we've got over the outlets. That's easily fixed by going into the keyer. I'm going to show the keyer effect over here, and it's in Matte Tools. Expand that, and it's this item here, this level. You can see I can pull that down, and it keys out those other darker greens, because that green is not exactly like the green wall. So that is something I have no idea to tell you about other than trial and error. And it was my previous multimedia producer that was working for us that found that out. So I would love to take credit for that, but that was not me. Okay, so here is our basic setup. What we normally do is we drag this shadow file here. That is our background most of the time. What we found is it's very subtle. We delete the text, obviously. But it allows us to put a nice background behind our people without it overpowering. We used to do images of campus. That became way too distracting. So that's what we do. And then the final step is putting a drop shadow on both the presenter and their computer file. And that's really all there is to it. And then it comes out looking like that. So that's how we set up our Final Cut. Hopefully this helps you in your setup of Final Cut.